And I hope you're wrong that we'll never get rid of that. I don't find it at all a demeaning thing. I feel, you know, you can spin it, I suppose is what I'm saying. We are a part of nature. We are part of the great scheme. We are cousins of all living things. I mean, aren't those rather grand, beautiful concepts?
Oh, I completely agree. I absolutely. I think that is for me, that is a wonderful thought. And if I can quote yourself back to you, I think the start of your book, Unweaving the Rainbow, which was what Keats said Newton had done, wasn't it? You say, we're all of us going to die. That means we're the lucky ones, because it means we're lived. I think that is profoundly true. We are extraordinarily lucky, and I always am trying not to take the world for granted, really, to keep that feeling of great fortune and love of the natural world there. But I feel for many people, I think we are lucky in more than one way. I think being biologists or being scientists also makes one lucky, because one is able to see beauty and harmony in places where other people become rather too easily bored, I think. And I think for many people are still obviously searching for some more profound meaning of life, because their lives are not sufficiently satisfying. I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel that most people only reach about a third of their potential, really. I think that given, I mean, all of us waste time. That's part of the lovely things about being alive. I'm not suggesting that we should be eager beavering away, 22 hours a day and get sleep down to 2 hours or anything like that. But I do mean that we ought to have our minds open to many more things than we actually do. And I'm glad that you mention this business about eternal life, because I know you've been very much in the public eye with your attitudes towards religion and your attacks on religion, most of which, I mean, I completely share your views, that I don't always think you've gone the most productive way of going about it. But too few people, when they're talking about what religion has done, it offers you a morality and so on. So I think most people are really struggling to come to grips with the idea of our mortality. I mean, death is, I find, a really wretched prospect. I mean, I think of Larkin, one of the great poets, in his poem, A Bard, and that poem sums the whole damn thing up for me. I'm not quite so obsessive or worried about death as he is, but the disappointment, the feeling that you'll no longer be in touch with this wonderful world. That is, and of course, as he says there, no rational, the people who argue no rational person can fear something that he will not be aware of, not seeing that that's what we are afraid of, that we won't be aware, that in somehow we are stopped. The anaesthetic. Why is it
worse than before you were born? I mean, what?
Of course it isn't.
No.
But of course, before I was born, I didn't know how wonderful the world was.
No, but you weren't anyway. No, I mean, I think I share you absolutely.
Yeah.
The thing about disappointment. I mean, the thing about no longer being in touch. That makes me want to make the most of it while I'm here.
Of course.
And to spend all the time, as you say, not breathing 22 hours a day, but nevertheless trying to learn as much as possible about the world, because it is so amazing and so wonderful.
Carpe diem is the really is it, isn't it? But I do sympathise with people who embrace religious belief, feeling it gives a dimension to their life which is otherwise lacking. I mean, I don't feel that at all. It does nothing for me, I'm afraid. I mean, I love going around old churches, I love the sense of continuity they give one, and I have a sentimental attachment for the good old C of E.
Me too, yes. When you think about the competition, anyway.
You say that again. I was brought up a Baptist, It was very much evangelical kind of stuff. Lots of good hymn singing, much better hymn singing than in Church of England, I have to say.
Yes.
They really let their hearts and lungs go then. But I don't know it would require a very profound transformation of the human condition to remove this search for a greater meaning.
Yes, but I mean, if we're talking about a search for an escape from death, if it's a lie, what kind of an escape is that? I mean, I don't understand why anyone would say, I believe something because I want to believe it.
No, but that's... No, of course. And one knows how most people acquire the religious faith. They're brought up in it. You know, I was brought up, and I can well remember I took belief in God was absolutely just part of me. And I always remember in the war, at very worrying times. I mean, 1940, and you know, the German invasion seemed very real. I never had any worry. I was 10 years old. I never had the least trace of worry at all. I knew that God would not allow that to happen.
Yes.
And it just no worrying thought ever crossed my mind.
Yes.
And I think a number of people retain that throughout their lives, and it gives them a kind of strength, which well, strength is perhaps not the right word. It gives them a kind of you might argue complacency, which doesn't go away. I don't know. It's very hard for me to put myself into that position again.
Me too. Yeah.
I can't really see it. But I mean, all of this. What I'm trying to do, I suppose, is to say that I very much understand where people with religious faith are coming from, and however abhorrent I find many of the current manifestations, and many of them are abhorrent beyond belief, beyond my belief, I nonetheless can see where they're coming from. I mean, it's interesting, you were telling me about this young woman who has written this extraordinary book in which she, despite of all the suffering she had under this fanatical form of religion...
You mean Ayaan Hirsi Ali? Yes, yes.
That she still retains some understanding for where these people have come from.
She retains a sympathy for where they're coming from. Not for their views, which she finds abhorrent and ridiculous, but she knows what it's like to have that kind of Islamic upbringing where all the women are trained to be submissive and to not question. I wouldn't have her level of tolerance and lack of rancour, I'm afraid to say.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, one of the more endearing aspects of human beings is a capacity to forgive. I'm not sure whether forgive is exactly the word here, but I was very impressed by old Archbishop Tutu's reconciliation thing with a party, and it does actually seem to have worked in some ways. It would be a great thing if it could happen. There are an awful lot of reasons for forgiveness going on at the moment. Are there not?
Nelson Mandela too was so good at forgiveness.
Yes.
Yeah. But do you take a pessimistic, optimistic view of the future of the world?
I struggle very hard to be optimistic, a short-term optimist. I think I mean, I have children, and I now have grandchildren, and one thinks about their world, and so I cannot allow myself to feel that there's not, things aren't going to get better. What I'm quite sure, what I'm absolutely certain of, is things have got to get worse before they can get better, because I think what we're going to need are some very powerful taps on the shoulder from the planet, kicks up the arse, really. And I think we're going to get them from climate, from various forms of unfortunate